What is up, everyone? It's Golden Centurion here, back at it again for another video. So today, guys, I am bringing you my GPC Week 4 battle versus Christian. His gamer tag right now is MindWarrior49. He's a pretty good coach in the GPC. He's rocking out with a record of 1-2, -1 differential. I'm out rocking out with a differential of I'm +1 currently with a 2-1 record. Now, I'm hoping to get a win today and kind of separate myself from the rest of the people. And he's hoping to get a win today and get back to an even record and hopefully for him positive differential. But guys, we have brought a pretty threatening team, I think, that works pretty well. But he's drafted a pretty insane team backed by one of the best mons in the game in Celesteela, so it'll definitely be hard to break through his fatter team. So the 6 mons that he opted to bring are Credilli, Slowbro, Chestnut, Helios, Crobat, and Celesteela. So right away that you can see that his team is fat. Like, all these mons are insanely fat. Credilli's a monster wall, Slowbro's a monster wall, Chestnut's pretty bulky. Helios isn't fat, but, I mean, everyone needs some offensive threats. Crobat is normally kind of thought as an offensive fast pivoter, but it can actually be a fat bat. And then Celesteela is just a monster. It can be a wall with Leech Protect. It can be a sweeper with Autonomize. So you never know what he's going to bring. The 6 mons I decided to bring were my Mega Gardevoir. I'm rocking out with a max special attack and pretty close to max speed, as he had something in the 90s range. I'm bringing my Alolan Muck, which is pretty physically defensive. Yes, physically defensive, however, has a lot of attack investment. I have my Greninja, who's meant to just break things. I have my Zebstrika that had to come due to his Celesteela being here. I'm Life Orb. I have my Agility Electricium Z Diggersby, rocking out with Wild Charge. And I have a Stealth rocking Seismitoad. So the main goal that I'm looking at is maybe potentially try and sweep with my Diggersby, as Electrium Z is really well against his team, and he doesn't have the best counters for Diggersby, as Electrium Z can take care of Slowbro and his Celesteela, who normally are counters. But besides that, I really need to get rid of Chestnut and Credilli a little bit weakened. My Toad isn't that valuable here. Looking at the matchup, it's puts in a little bit of work versus Slowbro, but for the most part, not that valuable. So its role will just be to get up rocks. My Zebstrika is not really rocking out with much. It has T-Bolt, Overheat, HP, I believe HP Ice, and then Volt Switch. Life Orb just to hit things as hard as possible. My Greninja is Hydro Pump, Dark Pulse, Ice Beam, and U-Turn, I believe. Shout out to TTM Burbtails for a little U-Turn. Next up, Alolan Muck is, it's really just offensive and kind of meant to take a couple hits. And then Gardevoir is the wall breaker on the team that hopefully will lead the path for Diggersby. So looking at his team, I really want Rocks up, as I want that Crobat getting a little dwiddled. I don't want Slowbro's Regenerator absolutely just restoring max health. And I want everything just a little bit weakened down in general for my Diggersby sweep. So my plan is to go ahead and lead with my Seismitoad, as I do, as he leads Celesteela. So, Celesteela, not the perfect matchup for me. However, as he can easily have Giga Drain or Seed Bomb. However, I have EV'd this thing to live both a Seed Bomb and a Giga Drain, as long as he's not like Life Orb or anything. So, as long as he's not Life Orb or Expert Belt, I'm pretty sure I'm living any grass type hit. So, even if he does outspeed me and he's like a really fast variant of Celesteela, I should still be able to get my rocks up, which is all my Seismitoad is meant to do. So I go ahead and get up my Stealth Rocks as he gets a Giga Drain and gets a crit. Now, while this is not the biggest thing in the world, it is really annoying, as since I was outspeeding, what this meant is I would have lived at like a range of 6 to 12 health, and then I would have been able to get off a knockoff, meaning that I would A, either know if a Celesteela is a Z move, which means he's a sweeping set, or B, knock off its item, which can either be Wakan or Leftovers, and then he would have either less recovery or wouldn't be able to take an electric type hit. So that's really annoying that I don't get my knockoff off, but hey, it's what the game is. Hopefully it doesn't come into play too much later, but still a little annoying, as any chip on Celesteela and no item would be amazing. But nonetheless, it is what it is, and he gets a special attack boost, which tells me he is a little more offensive based, so maybe it might be a Z move, which then the damage wouldn't have been too big, but at least I would have known it's a Z move. or maybe Expert Belt, but I really don't think so. Anyways, I go into my Zebstrika. Now, I don't do the most damage as Zebstrika's attack and special attack are pretty pitiful. However, I do know he will want to keep this thing relatively healthy, so I'm going to just go for a Volt Switch as he goes down to his Credilli, and Volt Switch does a ton. Well, no, my bad. Volt Switch does absolutely nothing. But Diggersby, who I go into, will be able to do a ton, as since I am a Z move, I'm really only doing about 60% around there. But he has no clue what I am, and if I'm Life Orb, he's potentially in range. If I'm Choice Banded, he's definitely in range. So there's no way he's staying in here. He'll either switch out into Slowbro, trying to take the Earthquake, into Fat Bat, but I really don't think so, or into Celesteela. So looking at those three potential switch-ins, he might go Chestnut also. I guess Chestnut maybe. So looking at those switch-ins, I don't think he'd want to go Celesteela, as if he switches in on that, I just hit him up with a Wild Charge the next turn. So I'm looking at Crobat, Slowbro, and Chestnut, and Alolan Muck deals decently with all three of them. So that's probably my play here, as I go into my Alolan Muck, as he doubles out into his Slowbro. So this is good for me, as if he wants to switch out, I get a free knockoff off. If he decides to stay in, he's going to take a huge chunk and he'll no longer have an item. So I go for a big knockoff, does 52. I see Rocky Helmet, which is nice, as that means my Diggersby won't be taking unnecessarily chip. And I get a Poison Touch Poison. Now it's unfortunate for him as it's residual damage. However, it is like a Scald Burn chance, so not the biggest hacks in the world. I think that crit with Celesteela may have been more fortunate, but we'll see. And he reveals to have Earthquake, which is really cool bring on his Bahart. It'll help him deal with this as well as Zebstrika. So really smart and cool bring on him. I wasn't expecting him to be able to touch me with only like a Scald or something, but Earthquake was definitely a smart bring. But I'm going to just fire off another knockoff as he goes into Chestnut, and I see that I knock off his leftovers. Now that's huge for me, as I've mentioned, Chestnut is one of the big things standing in the way of my Diggersby sweep, so getting rid of this thing's residual damage, meaning that any damage I get on him is probably here to stay, is huge. Now, looking at my team, I know he's probably going to go for Earthquake, but I've drafted a pretty hyper-offensive team, and nothing on my team really wants to take an Earthquake. My Diggersby is my setup win con here. My Zebstrika absolutely dies, and it's still very valuable. My Greninja, I believe, is more valuable, and my Gardevoir is just far more valuable to me than it's Alolan Muck at this time and moment. So Alolan Muck is my switch, and if he expects me to switch out and maybe goes for Hazards or for Leech Seed, I can hit him up with a huge Poison Jab. But he just plays smart and attacks what's in front of him with an Earthquake. Now I go into my Hermione, and I Mega Evolve and throw off a Hyper Voice, as his Chestnut drops. So Chestnut being out of way is huge, as that means my Diggersby is now open for the sweep, as if you look at it, his Credilli is relatively weakened, and as I've said, it only needs to be around 60 HP in order for Earthquake to KO. His Slowbro is really weak, and his Celesteela, I believe, after 2 more rounds of Stealth Rocks, is definitely within range of that Wild Charge. So a little bit of chip on Celesteela, and looks like Diggersby can easily clean this match up. And he goes into Celesteela, the Mon I need to chip on. However, I know that my Thunderbolt will not do nearly enough, and Gardevoir is still valuable, and Zeb's is not as valuable now, as Overheat spam isn't the best. So I go right into my Zebstrika. Also, he goes for Heavy Slam, which is resisted, which is great for me, and I fire off a big Overheat. And as you guys can see, it did 70 damage, which means he wasn't the most bulky Celesteela, leaning more towards an offensive set, but he is definitely now within range of Diggersby. I don't even have to click Wild Charge. Probably can click Return after a round of rocks. But Zebstrika definitely did its job, as now I believe I'm going to drop to an Earthquake. Yes. Okay. So now I get to go into my Greninja and fire off a Dark Pulse, I believe. So the reason why I went into Greninja instead of my Diggersby is, one, I didn't really want to reveal. Diggersby couldn't set up right now on his Celesteela, as he had Giga Drain. And if I went Diggersby here, he'd probably go into Slowbro. I didn't really want him going into Slowbro yet, as that would mean he got a little Regenerator boost. So since I would go into my Kakashi, hopefully he'll go into either his Credilli or into his Heliolisk, and if he goes Heliolisk, I'm going hard Mega Guard. So he does go into his Credilli, and that's just a free switch into Mega Gardevoir for me. And now I'm going to try and see what type of set he is. So I fire off a Hyper Voice, and it only does 40, which is pitiful damage. That tells me is he is max HP, max special defense, since he cannot be assault vest user since he revealed recover. So since he's max HP, max special defense, not any defense, my Earthquake is doing upwards of 61 to like a little, in the higher 50s to mid 60s range, which means really great, which means all I have to do is get it off a Hyper Voice on this thing, and he's definitely in range. So we're going to go into a bit of a stall here of me clicking T-Bolt. He first gets up his rocks. I click T-Bolt just as if you want to switch out into Slowbro or Crobat. And now we're kind of in a little bit of a stall. I am just trying to get him under 50 HP, as that's all I need for my Diggersby. Or under 55, I would say. Honestly, anywhere from 55 to 65 is where I want him at, as that's probably the roll. So around this range, and he's going to be doing a combination of Recover and Giga Draining me. So it's a long, kind of drawn-out process. I eventually score a crit here as he recovers. And he is in range here, so I go for a Hidden Power, not wanting to race too many Hyper Voices as I'm getting low on him. But here I believe he's going to try and KO me, as I unfortunately do get a crit, which puts him at 34 HP, and I kill him with Never Hyper Voice. Now, why this isn't the biggest deal is, as you guys saw, Giga Drain is killing me, and at the range of health he would have been at. After one more Hyper Voice, he definitely would have been in range of my Diggersby Earthquake. So it's not the hugest deal, as he wasn't going to get much recovery from my Gardevoir as I'm super low. So it just would have been 2 or 3 more turns, and he definitely would have been in range of Diggersby. So now he goes out into his Crobat, and my play is completely just to sack this thing. He goes for Brave Bird and puts a little bit of chip on himself as I go hard Diggersby. And I see something that's very valuable to me. I see that he's Black Sludge, and since he's Black Sludge, I know he's not Life Orb, which means I can potentially win this game now. As if he was Life Orb or Choice Banded, I don't think I'm living this Brave Bird, but since he's Black Sludge, I can Agility up and proceed to sweep, or at least potentially sweep. So that is my play. He Brave Birds me, and I get really low, and then I set up my Agility. So now that I'm at +2, looking at this, unless he's max HP, max defense, even if he is max HP, max defense, its roll is still in my favor to kill with Wild Charge. So that is my plan. I also calced, and Wild Charge Recoil will not kill me here. So I go straight for that, and his Crobat drops, thankfully. I'm down at 8 HP. And now I get to fire off a Z Gigavolt Havoc on his Slowbro. If he opted to switch out into Heliolisk, wasting my Z Gigavolt Havoc and then coming back in, Heliolisk would have died to my Earthquake, as I'm outspeeding his Heliolisk even if he has Choice Scarf. And then Greninja easily picked up the KO on his Slowbro. So this was my GPC Week 4 matchup versus Christian. Pretty good battle. Definitely well fought on both sides. So the only amount of hacks that really mattered, in my opinion, were the Giga Drain crit was a little annoying, as I didn't really know what Celesteela's set was, but that didn't come into play much. Actually, Zipstrika may have been able to KO it after a little knockoff damage, so I don't know. But the critically getting crit was annoying for him, definitely. However, as I said, I only needed to get it into about 60 HP or so, and then it was gone. If he went Slowbro, which I don't see why he would versus a Diggersby, he probably would have gone Heliolisk or Crobat anyways after I KO'd it with Earthquake, and then I still would have been able to set up. And he revealed in his prep that he is Assault Vest. An Assault Vest Heliolisk cannot KO me, so I would have just Agility'd and set up on no matter what came in. So that's the game, guys. Definitely a well-fought battle on both sides, in my opinion. Really fun game. Go ahead and check Christian out. But that is my Week 4. I am now 3-1 +3 differential, and I will see you all next time. Peace.